Thank you, everyone. I'm glad to be back here for, I think, my 5th year in a row, but my 7th year overall at WordCamp Raleigh. And I want to thank Steve and Michael for inviting me back. I'm doing this presentation today about social meta optimization, and then tomorrow I'll be giving the SEO for Beginners workshop for 3 hours. So I'll be doing that as well. Hopefully you can attend. So thank you for coming this afternoon. So @TonyZioli is my Twitter handle. I'm the founder, as the moderator said, of Digital Strategy Works. It's a digital strategy consultancy I've had for about 8 years, and I've worked full-time on and off during periods of employment or unemployment or underemployment. I'm a digital strategy coach at Mountain BizWorks in Asheville, North Carolina. Mountain BizWorks is a local nonprofit lending and learning organization. And what they do is they provide small businesses with microloans or loans that a traditional bank might not fund. They funded $3 million in loans last year, and they have 45 coaches, 20 active coaches. I'm one of the 20 active coaches that work with small business owners to set up their digital strategy, including their social media and social meta optimization. I'm the co-organizer of WordPress Chapel Hill, which I started in 2010. Right here in Chapel Hill when I worked at UNC's journalism school, and we still run it with a couple of co-organizers. And our next session is Monday night, and we're talking about the WordPress customizer at WordPress Chapel Hill. It's in partnership with the Chapel Hill Public Library, so it's free for everyone to attend. It's not only WordPress aficionados, but local, people that go to the library that want to learn more about WordPress and content publishing. My focus as a digital strategist is specifically WordPress. I don't do Drupal, I don't do Joomla, I don't do other CMSs. I bet the farm on WordPress in 2005. And I've been on the WordPress.org a registered member for 11 or 12 years now in that network. I recommend if you're new, that you do sign up in WordPress.org and get your own profile there, ask questions, help people. It's a really great way to get to know other WordPress users and learn a little bit about how to do things, solve problems that you've been thinking about, or solve other people's problems, right? I focus on social media, SEO, digital strategy, meaning conceptually the global idea of what it is that we all do with Facebook advertising and Google AdWords and Google Analytics and SEO and how it all works together. And in that there's content marketing, email newsletter marketing, e-commerce, and analytics. So that's really my core skill set. I do some multimedia stuff too. I have a little bit of a multimedia background as well. And I also have, I'm proud of this because I still pay my $156,000 student loan. I have a BS in digital communications and media from NYU that I got at a later age. I went back to school at 38 and graduated at 44 and did my degree there. So you can do it if you want to go back to school. I'm a prime example. I showed the picture of my son in my hands because my son came through a boosted post on Facebook. We adopted Hudson 2 years and 4 months ago at birth, and how he came was a Facebook boosted post that I boosted, and this is social meta optimization in some respects, right? Showing, this is a story that I wrote on LinkedIn about how a $20 Facebook boosted post resulted in our open adoption. And so people you can read that. You can go to LinkedIn, my profile there. You can read that story about how that happened. I won't go into detail, but you can see how that post is optimized from LinkedIn and how I'm telling that story and my title, my image, my description about how that happened, right? So you want to make sure, you're telling a story, you want to make sure your social post, your object that you're posting into social media is optimized. So what is social meta optimization? You probably saw that in the schedule, and you said social meta. Well, it's social media, but what's social meta? Well, it's an aspect of social media optimization. Social media optimization connect social media accounts in a cohesive, consistently branded network, pointing your potential customers where you want them to go. The back and forth of I'm posting in my blog, but I'm publishing in social media and driving people back to my blog. Or I'm posting in social media, driving people back to a product on my site, right? It's the give and take between your social post and your site post, and how you drive people back and forth or in a circle to get them to take the actions that you want to get them to. So SMO Pros employ strategic multi-point process to build a successful social media optimization foundation to boost SEO and drive more potential customers to your site, right? So what it is not. Social SEO is not a ranking signal today, but it could be in the future. Links from Facebook, Twitter, Google+ do not increase your page rank or help you land higher in search. You would think that, you know, if you posted 1,000 posts to Facebook and linked back to a blog post, that you'd win all this, you know, all this page rank, you know, that Facebook would throw all this authoritative page rank to you. But that's not true, because anybody could do that then, right? Anybody could post 1,000 posts in Facebook and try to game the system and get all that authoritative page rank, but you really can't. So the other thing too about that is Google views Twitter and Facebook posts as pages themselves, but has low confidence in their authorship, right? We don't know, you know, how many people in this room, raise your hand, that you've been trying to be friended by some fake profile on Facebook, right? So half the room. I get it all day long, right? So Google and Twitter really don't have, Twitter and Facebook really don't have a good way to authenticate. Even though Facebook forces real names and can somewhat try to force you into using your real name, they don't have your credit card number on file. They don't have any way to validate who you are. So why should Google validate those posts back into, you know, pointing to some blog or some website, right? There's no authority, there's no validation in that ecosystem. So that's why Google doesn't today give you page rank or you know, link juice based on that. Plus, Google's crawler is finite and cannot crawl trillions of social pages, right? Posts, tweets, as they change over time. Even Google has a limit. So they index trillions of posts and they take a representative sample of those things. So it's good to know that. And sites with high social, you know, so you say, oh, well, what about BuzzFeed, right? What about, you know, The Onion? What about New York, the Time Magazine, right? All those sites have high social engagement anyway. So their sites are going to have page rank anyway, because they have high social engagement and they have high traffic because they're well-known brands, right? People visit them every day and they know Time Magazine or Elle or Vogue or whatever have you, right? So social media is not necessarily boosting the, you know, even though it's driving traffic, not necessarily boosting page rank on those sites by the link backs, but it's boosting it by the traffic for those high quality sites. Right? So the intent that we're talking about today is to, just like I showed you with the adoption posting, is to, and this is one of my clients, Total Merchant Resources, and this is a post that I posted for them a couple months ago, you know, to make sure that the right image, this is a screenshot of something that my client appeared on, to make sure that the title, that the description, and that you can't probably see this from back there, it's really light, but this is a link to the website, and you can affect that link and make sure that it's there when you're optimizing social SEO. So somebody can click on the title or the link and get to the website. So we're ensuring social posts you create are optimized: title, description, site, image, and you can even add video. I don't know, have any of you in Facebook recently been seeing ads with video in them? Raise your hand, right? So you're now starting to see people use video in a social post. And we can do that with all-in-one SEO, and we'll talk about that during the course of this presentation. So social objects, right? They go back and forth. How many people know when I say the word cross-post? What is this? Do you know cross-post? Raise your hand. Okay, only a few. Cross-posting is when I publish into WordPress, I can cross-post into a 1, 2, or more social media accounts at the same time. There are various plugins that do this. I chose Jetpack, and we'll get into that. So it's publishing rich content to social media hubs, driving interactions back to the website landing page, product page, or homepage. So if I publish a product, I should be able to publish that product and then have that product post go directly into my social media feeds, right? Instead of me having to copy and paste a link and go into each social media account or use Sprout Social, I can do it right from the WordPress dashboard, and we'll get into that. So Facebook Open Graph, how does this happen? So we need to talk about, step back and say, okay, we know we can do this, but how does it actually happen? Who created this technology? Who's using it, and how does it function in your site? So Facebook Open Graph Protocol, Facebook actually created an open source project called the Open Graph Protocol. It enables any web page to become a rich object. So when we talk about object, we mean that every post is an object, but an object has attached to it meta information, right? So for instance, this is used on Facebook to allow any web page to have the same functionality as any other object on Facebook. All social networks use Open Graph tags to convert links into objects that can ultimately be shared. So you can learn more at ogp.me. It's a one-page website. I didn't publish the whole website into the presentation, but this just gives you a screenshot of the most basic elements of OGP that are added into the head and under the title of the page title. You have meta properties: Open Graph title, Open Graph type, Open Graph URL, Open Graph image. If you go to OGP, you'll see all the other relevant types, but not necessary. These are the necessary types that must be there. So I'll leave it up to you to go out and research that yourself. Fortunately for us, plugins actually add these Open Graph types in their meta modules to manage these things, and we'll talk about how that looks as the presentation goes on. So when I am creating a post, I might use my post title for my blog post, but then I might use the social meta optimization title to make that title even longer. Because remember, Google looks at a title as 60, and I know Steve said this morning it's extending out into 70, maybe 75 characters based on some new pixel-based optimization of the search engine. So, if you want to say something very compelling that you can't say in 75 characters, then you can use a social meta optimization to add words, whatever have you. Because in SEO, right, we want to concatenate our titles to use rich keywords and leave out extraneous words like that, if, and, but, because, that don't mean anything to a search engine, right? So we're optimizing our title for the blog post, but we're optimizing our social share title that goes out into social media. They can be two different titles, right? So let's talk about publishing an object, right? So this is a post about emerging franchise bootcamp that I did for my client, Total Merchant Resources, who's in the merchant cash advance business. And I'm just publishing content to drive people to blog posts about interesting things, that have to do in the industry. And then all of a sudden I cross-post it and publicize, and it ends up, over here in Facebook, in their Facebook page, right? So that's the objective, is to transfer those assets from A to B and make sure that there's consistency of brand. And before I get into what you need, let's talk about how many people are concerned, how many people are small business owners? Okay, so you're concerned with branding, right? And consistency and of message, right? So when you're using Jetpack's Publicize, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and you're cross-posting your social media types, it's very important that we get our branding right. Our branding has to do with our logo, our image, our titles, our descriptions. That's part of branding, right? What we say to our customers is part of the brand experience. So we want that to be consistent across our social ecosystem. So what you're going to need, obviously, is WordPress, which we're all here for. A social meta module, which is included in the all-in-one SEO pack plugin. Now, I've used all-in-one SEO for years. I'm a great fan. In full disclosure, I've worked for them in the past. I don't work for them right now, but frequently we consistently engage in dialogue, and I bring up feature requests and bug fixes and these kinds of things. Then you'll need a sharing module, which is included in Jetpack. So how many people use Jetpack? Only a few. Jetpack is a plugin that is freely available, and it's created by the for-profit arm of WordPress. I guess maybe that's not the right way to describe it, but WordPress is split into two. There's the open source project at WordPress.org, and then there's WordPress.com, where any user can sign up and pay, $30 a year to get their own domain, their own WordPress site without having to use the self-installed and out there in the hosting world, right? So Automatic, which owns WordPress.com, actually built Jetpack, and Jetpack is a plugin with I think 30 or 32 other plugins inside of it, and two of those things are sharing and publicize, and it's a very powerful plugin. I used to use other ones that were on the market that faltered when Jetpack took over kind of this space of social sharing and publicizing your content across cross-posting into different networks. With Jetpack, you can cross-post. Well, actually, I'll show you because I have a screenshot. Facebook Developers Portal. So you really need a Facebook Developers account. You want to go to the Facebook Developers Portal and sign up for an account because you're going to need to get an app ID from Facebook, like an application ID, and you're going to have to insert that somewhere, and we'll talk about that later. So you want to get a Facebook Developers Portal, and it's kind of going to be tied to your personal account, but then you're going to have, if you have business pages listed, right, then you can assign things based on those business pages. Facebook Developers Debugger, okay? So Facebook scrapes the web and locates all kinds of posts from billions of blogs and websites, and it says, oh, I see this information. But what their debugger does is dumps their cache of what it sees from you now into what you want it to see later, and we'll walk through a step in how to do that. On Twitter,
you can use the debugger without having the developer's account, correct?
You can use a debugger without having the developer's account, but you need a developer's account to get a Facebook app ID. And a Facebook app ID, and we'll get into this, is different than a Facebook user, your own personal user ID. So you'll need the All-in-One SEO Meta Pack. You'll download All-in-One SEO. You'll enable and configure social meta settings in All-in-One SEO Pack, and you'll add your Facebook user ID. So nobody knows what your Facebook user ID is once you convert your user ID into a real name, like myfacebook.com/Tony Zioli, right? It used to be facebook.com/00000 whatever, right? So to get your Facebook user ID, you can do findmyfbid.com, and you can find your code for your Facebook user ID. What's that? The slides will be posted too on SlideShare after this. Create an app at developers.facebook.com and enable your Facebook app ID and add your app ID into the social meta panel, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Now, the reason that Facebook has an app ID is you may build a mobile app, or you may build some other, your website or whatever, and they have their API system. So you need to create an app in Facebook to get an API key to link up to whatever it is you're doing outside of Facebook, or even inside of Facebook. So it's a complex thing, but really all you need is the app ID. So you just go and register it. You don't worry about all the other intangibles that they ask you for. The social meta, add social meta management for posts, pages, products, post types, and taxonomies. So that way you can optimize almost anything for social sharing within. So if you have a product, you can optimize that. If you have a custom post type that's a restaurant dinner menu, you can optimize that, or whatever have you. And, it's a pretty powerful plugin. And so to really learn how to use the Facebook, the All-in-One SEO, you should go to simpleplugins.com, documentation, social meta module. You can Google it, and it's a full tutorial about every element in the plugin. And the plugin also has tooltips, so you can click on it, and you'll see it when we go live with it. There are tooltips that you click on it, it will give you a little description of what it does, and then a link anywhere in this page, wherever it targets in this page, whatever it's talking about. So it's easy to use the All-in-One SEO Social Meta plugin in that sense, because there's a lot of documentation on it, and it will answer a lot of your questions about what each feature and function does. Now, the thing about, I couldn't take a screenshot because it would probably be like 3 times the size of this room. So you'll have to go to the site and look it up yourself and scroll through it. But this is the basic. This is also a screenshot. I mean, it goes, as long as this wall. But I got the real basics here. When you actually enable social settings, social meta in all-in-one SEO pack, it then gives you a toggle between your main SEO settings and your social settings. So for your SEO, you're going to go to the left tab. For your social, you're going to go to the right tab. And when you add a picture to a post and you hit update or save draft before you publish, then the picture will ultimately appear here, and you can select the picture that you want to go. And you can also set a title. It gives you a character count, and you can set a description as well. The interesting thing about this, too, is that I'm not showing is that you can use your all-in-one SEO SEO side information to autofill into your social meta settings if you want. If you want to really be creative and have your post title, your post body, then your SEO title and your SEO description, then your social media title and your social media description, you can get that granular by toggling between both. Or you can just set it to use my SEO in my social meta. I'm not showing that window. It's in the settings panel for social meta, but you just know that it's there if you wanted to use it, and you didn't want to duplicate your work. But like I said, it's important to remember that Google will concatenate information where Facebook allows much more rich information in a title or a post. So you could publish a complete paragraph in Facebook, maybe 400 characters or 300 characters that might show up, and that won't show up in Google's 160 characters or whatever they publish for a description.
Give an example of when it would be worth it to give extra time to write for the social.
It's always worth it. It's always worth it, right? I mean, what are your goals, right? What's your goal with the blog post or the product post, right, in the title? And what's your goal when it goes publicized to social, right? When it goes publicized, you may want to say a couple of extra words in your title that drives interest to action that you couldn't add in because you're limited on your SEO side of what you can write for the SEO title. So, or you might want to say something really funny in your social title that you don't want to say on your blog. I mean, that's a good example, right? It's like, I don't want to be cheeky over here, but I can be cheeky over there, right? Because I really want Google to find me based on these keywords and this relevance over here, but I know I don't get, there's no search over there. So I can just be cheeky and say something funny, or off color, in that window, and not have it affect my SEO result, my search engine result. Does that make sense? Yeah, you can share more personality, right? Do I do it? Sometimes on occasion, but I'm dealing with merchant cash advance, and I don't, it's.
What can you really say?
I don't know. I just, it is what it is, right? So download Jetpack and enable publicizing, sharing, and connect your social networks. So this is what that looks like. So under, you don't see it here, but it's sharing becomes an option once you install it. And you can go in and you can link Twitter, Facebook. Now with Facebook, you can link your personal and your business page. That's the only network that can do it. So you can see I'm connected to Digital Strategy Works for Facebook. I left my personal out because I don't want it to go. I have tonyzioli.com, and I want stuff from tonyzioli.com to go to that. Connected as DSWKS, connected as Tony Zioli on LinkedIn, because you cannot yet connect to a brand page with LinkedIn, I don't think, or it hasn't been added yet if you can. And then Google. I don't use Path. I don't even know what it is. And forever, whoever wants to use Tumblr, you can do that. So those are the networks. Once you connect to those networks, then this panel appears in your edit view, right? Where you can hide it, or you can open it and you can say share to these networks, or don't share, and even set a custom message that you want in the share. So once you hit publish, then voila, whatever you've optimized with the social meta panel will then be shared out into the social networks. And that way you can write once and read everywhere, right? And that's the holy grail of content publishing, right, is write once, read everywhere. I'm going to do an example post right now, and we'll see how that works. So we'll walk through how to manage social meta for a post, discuss object types, and I'll talk a little bit about that, discuss Twitter cards, and use a photo or video in a social share. So let me back out of this, and I have this open. And I'm going to talk about Sprout Social or using some kind of manager like that. So you could see that in, let me go back to that. You can see that I kind of set this up, right? This is a test site that I use for just plugins and stuff when I'm just testing things. So you can see that that's the post, and this is the Facebook. Have you ever seen this? Anybody ever see this in Facebook? The blank avatar, like the head, right? So that means Facebook didn't find a great image for your post. And all of a sudden, you got nothing. And you sent out this post, and maybe you have an audience of 10,000, and they're like, what's that? What's that head, right? That means that Facebook couldn't find something, couldn't find an image. Maybe you don't have Open Graph tags installed that you did with your developer. Maybe you didn't install a plugin. You know, it can't find an image for that post. Or maybe there's no image for that post, so you need an image, right? So we want to create an image for that post and then debug it, right? So if I say I want to put an image in here, and I'll add media. Come on. Is this even connected? I'm connected on guest, but I can't add an image. Probably not good. What I'm going to do is connect to my phone. Hold on a second. Good old tethering at work. Let me just redo this.
If you have an image in your post, which you're getting ready to do, the featured image, which one is the Open Graph going to pick out?
You select it, and I'll show you.
Cool.
All right. So say I select this one, and I insert it into the post. Right. So there I have an image in my post. I want to hit update, and I update my post, and then I scroll down to my social meta settings, and I should see that image now right here. So then I can select that image, and then I can say, you know, this is a great story about music, and then I can talk about whatever it is I want to talk about here. Right? You could even specify the image width or the image height if you have a larger image, but that would obviously squeeze it depending. Right? So you really want to, there is a page on Facebook that talks about optimizing images for social meta. You could add a custom video link. And then there are object tags. So here it's activity, but really what I want is blog. Right? So if I have a website and it's a page, I want to say website. If I have a blog post, I want to say blog. If I'm a restaurant, or if it's a book or an album or product, you know, you can choose. Facebook provides these choices. Now, I'm not sure 100% about what Facebook does with these tags, right? I tried to research it and I kind of stopped, and they offer it, but they don't explain what they do with it. You know, so I don't know what they're doing with it. Maybe it has something to do with, you know, their knowledge base, like their knowledge cards and Facebook businesses. I really don't know 100% what they do with it. But it's good to know that it's there and that you tag it appropriate and that you read Facebook developers portal, you know, for these types of things to make for the object types. There's a website on Facebook developer site that explains what object types are. But they don't explain what they use them for. That's where I'm a little confused.
All of this that you're showing us right here is within Jetpack, is that right?
This is within, when the moderator was introducing me, he had said Jetpack, but there's two plugins. You're using all-in-one social meta to do your social, to optimize your social meta tags to make sure that the right image, title, description, and link goes out with a post. And then you're using Jetpack to do cross-posting, right? Some people might use Sprout Social and take the link that they did. They might just take their link and go over to Sprout Social and use that link. And then Sprout Social is going to pull in that Open Graph meta, but it depends on how, and we'll get into that. But, it's publicize and sharing to make sure you're setting up yourself for cross-posting, and then social meta to make sure that you're setting up your image, title, description to the right one that you want to go out with a post.
I've used the cross-posting in Jetpack before, but I had never seen this. That's why I was asking the question. Did I miss something? But it was a different plugin. I get it.
Yeah, it's a different plugin, right? So then I've set that, so I want to hit update. Notice that there's no update button in this view. While all-in-one SEO in other views, like in its general settings view, has a settings update button at the bottom. These panels don't have update buttons in certain places. You have to update the post to get the update button. So now that we've done that, I've already published this post. So I'll view the post. Oh, wait a minute, let me go back. Hold on, I just want to keep that window open and just do it in a new tab. All right. And so its blog music is the post. And then what all-in-one SEO did is provides the link to, so you don't have to actually type in, Facebook's developers debugger, blah, 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 right? You can just go here and to debug this post. And then it will jump over to the developers tool. So now there you can see it's already seeing my sharing update. It already, I didn't even have to redo it. It's already seeing it, right? This is a great, so this is what's going to go out when it goes out into the Open Graph ecosystem. Now, when Facebook created Open Graph, everybody else adopted that, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, they all use Open Graph tags to identify, because it's an open source project and there was no monetization of it, they knew, Facebook doing so, knew that if other social networks adopted this, that it would become an easier world that we could all live in, right, by creating that open source ecosystem. So you can see that the share app ID is missing. So for netmix.co, I didn't get an app ID. So I would go to, my wife is calling me just at the right time. Sorry, honey, I can't talk right now. She's going to see this on WordPress.tv and laugh, right? So Facebook developers.
Can I ask another question while you're doing that? Okay, so if you, because you're not paying attention, and you go ahead and hit publish, and you've got the cross-posting set up, and it publishes to Facebook, and then you realize I had no image.
You can then just update the post with an image, then go to the debuggers, scrape, and it will. It should update. It's a good question. No, I don't think it will update the post. Once the post is gone, it's gone.
I have to delete it.
You have to delete it on Facebook, go back, republish it, or just take the link back just for Facebook and do it. So,
I was hoping that would have a different answer to my question.
This is the page about objects that you can Google and find out about what different objects mean. But notice that I have my apps, and I have apps for all these different sites. So I'll go to like TonyZioli.com, and I'll have an app ID here. So they want me to take that app ID that I created and put it into all-in-one SEO's social meta. Here's the panel for this. It's going to ask me for my admin ID and my app ID, right? And this is my test site, so I don't have them in there. But the other thing about social meta is that you can also, for example, use the general settings to set an image and a description for the home page, right, that you want to go. So whenever somebody shares your home page, maybe you have 16 images on your home page, but you want to just have one image be the share image when somebody clicks share this page with your social, sharing icons, right? So you can set that in the social meta panel under the settings feature. here's where you can use, use all-in-one SEO title and description if you wanted to, or you could set your own, title, description, home title, home description, or home image. Image settings, you could then say, oh, well, take the default image, the featured image for this, for pages or posts or whatever have you. If you wanted to, you could read up more on this under these tooltips, and then they take you directly over to, right to that area of the tutorial system for Semper plugins to learn about every single feature, right? You want to add your social profile links, so you have Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook. You want to add them here. Are you a person or organization? The social graph wants to know, what kind of site this is. An associated name might be Digital Strategy Works or whatever it is. Here's your Facebook admin ID, your app ID, your object type. Now, if you're running a blog, you're obviously going to put blog. If you're running a website, you're going to put website. If you're running the article, I'm not 100% sure what the difference is, but this is a general setting. And if you see Steve outside, he'll be able to answer that question between, what is the difference between blog, website, and article? Article might be like a newspaper, or it might be it could be a citation site or something like that. I would put website, I would put a news site under website, and I would put a citation site as an article. Automatically create generic article tags, enable Facebook Meta for, whatever custom post types you have or whatever have you. And then show the Facebook publisher on articles. Yes, you can click the documentation to learn more about that specific feature. And then there's Twitter settings. So Twitter has its own settings. What's your Twitter site? So that's your Twitter handle. Show the Twitter author, you, Digital Strategy Works, NetMix, or whatever company that you're working with, and your Twitter domain. There are some advanced settings that I don't necessarily use at this point that you can learn more about under the help or under the different tooltips about running shortcodes. So maybe you want to pull a shortcode in your title from somewhere else. So say you have a product or something that there's some piece of data that you want to be in your shared title, so you want to pull it in there automatically by shortcode, because maybe you have 1,000 of them or something like that. You can do that too. You can put a shortcode in a title, and you can click that button to enable it. So you want to make sure, and you also want to make sure that it has a scanning feature. So you may have another plugin, like, you may need this, but you may be using Yoast or some other Embedly or some other plugin that might, put meta tags in the head of your document. So it will scan your site and say, okay, you have, duplicate meta tags. So then you have to resolve that yourself. So it's pretty cool to be able to do this. I guess we'll go to questions now, if anybody has any, or was that pretty concise in terms of what you need to know?
Is that something you do each time you post something, or that you set up in the very beginning?
You got yelled at. I'm sorry. Is that something you do? What was it? Who's asking the question?
Just once, or are you doing each time?
It's a manual process. You got to, for every page or post, if you have a blog right now and you've never done it, and you have 1,000 posts, time to get cracking. Because you have legacy content that people are going to look for, and they might want to share. And if you don't have an image in your post, that goes along with the post, or you don't have, maybe you want to update your titles and descriptions just because you'd like to do that. But then you also have to think about if you change a title in an old blog post, it could change you can change the title and not change the permalink and still have Google know where your page is, or you could change the title and the permalink and then have to do a redirection and say the old title was this and the new title is that, because if your post was really popular, you want to pass the link juice from the old URL to the new URL. So you'll need to install a plugin like Redirection and say, so say your title was mywebsite.com/I walk this way, but then you change it to mywebsite.com/I walk that way, and you change the permalink slug, you're going to have to use Redirection and say, point I walk this way to I walk that way. That way it passes the link juice forward to the new post. Because you don't want to lose the opportunity and all of a sudden disappear in search, which one of my clients, a restaurant client of mine, a competitor just did. They just changed their URL from Curate, which is a really famous restaurant now in Asheville, to some restaurantgroup.com, and they deleted the Curate website. But I don't know, if you do a search for restaurants in Asheville, Curate used to come up in page 1 or page 2, and they lost all that because they didn't pass it forward. So I'm going to have to talk to them about that, because that's crazy. So any other questions?
I reckon a lot of us in here use Yoast. Can we do all the same things that you showed?
You tell me, I don't know. No, Yoast is a great plugin. I mean, like Steve said this morning, I'll be honest, I've never used Yoast. I really love All-in-One SEO for what it does, and I'm in touch with the guys. They get free support in their free support forum, as opposed to Yoast, who charges forward for support. You can't get free support from Yoast, and that's their business model, right? But as far as I've seen Yoast installed, I've seen that it doesn't have in my mind, it's not as granular, and the user experience in terms of what you see on the screen is not the same as an all-in-one SEO. They may advance to this, or they may already have it. I don't know, but you can try it out. I know they have something, but I don't know if it's the same exact way, forward. I've seen it, but I haven't used it.
And if you're in North Carolina, buy local.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you can get All-in-One SEO and Social Meta Pack for free. All-in-One SEO is free up to the point where if you want All-in-One SEO Pro, that's going to be able to give you SEO for custom taxonomies, like if you have products and categories. You can then do SEO for categories and products beyond just posts and pages. So that's the advantage. You can use All-in-One SEO for free right now and do all of this without having to pay for it, which is a great advantage. I'm not sure if Yoast charges for this at this point from their free to paid version, if that social meta is free stuff that they offer or not. I know there are other newer SEO plugins, but I'm not sure if they're using, like WPMU Dev has a SEO plugin now, but does it have social meta? I don't know. Or can you do it another way, right? Before you ask this question, I'm sorry, I just want to say one thing. Remember that if you do post something on your blog and you have one image and you have the first 6 lines of text, Facebook, if you put your URL on Facebook, Facebook might pull that image and that text, right? So you may not need this, right, if you don't want to go through it, through the of optimization, right? But think about, the first 6 lines of text might be meaningless in your description, right? That's why we optimize. So just like Google, if you don't optimize your SEO in Google, Google pulls the title, and it pulls what it wants from your first 3 to 6 lines of text. Same with Facebook. Facebook will pull whatever it wants. If you have 20 images on a page, Facebook will then give the user the ability to choose the image that they want to share with the post. But if you're a brand, you may not want that specific image to go. It could pull an advertisement for another product into a feed of images that says to the user, oh, you're sharing this link? Okay, well here, you can share 1 of 20 images on this page, and 2 out of 20 could be an ad for somebody else's competing product. They could click on that and say, yeah, I'll share that, with this social post, and all of a sudden you have the wrong image. This is why we optimize. It's because Facebook does pull, but it can pull what it wants. We want to tell Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google Plus what we want to deliver to it, right?
In your vast social media experience, have you noticed a change in effectiveness as far as specific social media properties? Like for instance, I know it depends on your intent of what you're trying to promote, but like Twitter has become less or more effective versus Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or Pinterest.
That goes beyond the scope of this discussion. This discussion is, he was just asking which one's more effective. It's how you use the networks, number one. In terms of effectiveness, for me personally, if you're asking a question outside of the scope of this talk, I would say there are different reasons to use different networks, right? I started going back to LinkedIn because LinkedIn's done a whole great redesign over the last 6 months, and I really want to build my network in business, right? So I'm using LinkedIn more, right? And I'm publishing using social meta optimization to LinkedIn. But Facebook, I'm using my Facebook business page, or my clients, you know, I'm doing social media management for them. So that's a different responsibility and skill set to say, oh, what can I write for them, or what information can I share in their networks that benefits their users. And then in Twitter, I'm not a voracious Twitter user, but I'm on Twitter and I follow people because I think it's just a good relational net. I saw you on Twitter, you saw me, I caught something that you said, I replied. Like, you know, there's some value to Twitter for me, but I might not use it like other people use it. You can use Twitter in 10 different ways, right? That, you know, that don't apply to Facebook or LinkedIn, you know, in certain respects. So for me, all of them. Where I fall far short is Google+, right? Because I have friends in Google+, and I cross-post to Google+, and I optimize for Google+, especially in branded pages. Branded pages in Google+ are hard to find friends. You can't just say, you know, it seems to me that if you have a personal page in G+, you know, you can find people in your circles and stuff, and you can follow them because you've emailed them and they show up to you because you have Gmail and whatever their ideas are beyond that. But in branded pages, it's hard to get followers in Google+. Even if I'm cross-posting, even with these great social shares that I'm doing, you know, or social objects that I'm putting into the network, I haven't really expanded my reach as much into that network. Can I? Should I? Probably, because there are people there and they're interested and they're techies, kind of like the Twitter crowd are in my world, but I just haven't, you know, if that answers your question. There's a value in all of them. It's just what you extract from it is the real answer. Any other questions?
So Tony, when does it make sense to be using a program like a social meta tool like Jetpack versus a social scheduling tool like a Buffer for Business if you have a bunch of clients? My other question was going to be do you also find the social media channels are now maybe encroaching on what's been WordPress territory, like LinkedIn now does author articles and Facebook is trying to do instant articles?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a, you know, that's the argument, right? Facebook wanted you to come and set up your, you know, your social world in their network, and then they have notes. So you could publish articles in Facebook that are not status updates, right? My sister does. My sister publishes long treatises of how she hates my mother, you know. No, sorry, Ma, she doesn't really hate you. I'm just using that as an example. You know, everybody wants your attention, you know, but at the end of the day, my philosophy is, you know, if you are a brand or a product, you know, yes, you need to be in the social world, but you need to drive people back to your site because that's your base of operations, right? And so that's where you're driving your traffic, that's where you're selling your products, that's where you're signing people up for your newsletter, that's where you're doing all these things. All these other networks want all that busyness from you, but you know, you can't be distracted from that as much. You can use it and utilize it, but I really think that we should drive back to WordPress. Sure, you have Medium. They could be going out of business, right? Medium is struggling with a profit model, right? So, so for me, my digital strategy that I advise my clients on is to have a base and focus on your base and build your base, because any one of these other networks could be gone, right? And you lose everything. Well, you can download all your what would you do with it? If you downloaded all your Facebook posts and your users, then where would you port it to? You have to build something to port it to somewhere to get all these posts then from Facebook into your WordPress site, and maybe you've already done that. I don't know. But it becomes all convoluted, right, at that level. But at the end of the day, you know, your website is your base of operations. Your website is where you want people, you know, your channel that you're trying to drive people into, and you're using your social sphere to market outward, but to bring people back in to your, you know, your blog post or your products or whatever have you, because ultimately that's where you want them to be. And you want to capture them as a lead, and you want to then market to them through email and direct marketing, maybe, you know, maybe phone calls or paper marketing or whatever, you know, print marketing or whatever you do. Let me just talk about Sprout for 2 seconds. I pulled it up. So I use Sprout Social, and what I do is, so my client is a pretty generic business. They provide cash for businesses that need it, that can't get funding from banks, right? So they don't really provide a lot of training, right? I need cash. You need to apply for it. I can give it to you. How much do I have to talk about, right? So what I did was I set up feeds in Feedly, and then I pulled those feeds into Sprout Social. And then I can find any of these things, and I can say, okay, I want to share this. And see how it's starting to pull? It starts to pull, right? So this doesn't even have an image, and it just has a link. Do I want to share that? No, right? And then when I'm also dealing with Sprout Social, the problem is, if I click on Twitter and I find some kind of, let me close this and find something else that does have, so say I share this, right? It shows that I have 1 to 9 images to choose from, right? And I can edit this stuff too. But if I try to share it into Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus and Instagram, each network has its own rules around what can you share. This isn't a WordPress thing, right? It sort of is. I mean, you're doing social media optimization in WordPress. So if you pull the link from WordPress and you put it in your window here, and you want to share it, in that window, and it then pops up with your social object and says share that. But see, it says, to comply with Facebook guidelines, we have removed any pre-populated text, right? So now there's no text for Facebook, so you have to then turn off Twitter or turn off Facebook or share it. Using Sprout and TweetDeck and Hootsuite and all these things, there are so many issues around who gets to share what and where that it can be convoluted. So sometimes I have to only share to Facebook and Google Plus, then go back and just share a small snippet to Twitter. So it just increases the workload. And then share a small snippet with Instagram, increases the workload, right? So sending out that post to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google Plus through my object sharing and publicize on Jetpack, sure, it may not end up exactly as I intended it in Twitter, but it's pretty much guaranteed to end up in the networks that take more information, like Facebook, Google Plus, and LinkedIn. So is there any other questions? Or do we?
Is there any understanding, do you get more traffic potentially from algorithms in the site?
In the social sites?
LinkedIn article, does that potentially drive more traffic, or is there no evidence of that?
I mean, that's another, beyond the WordPress question, right? I mean, you're posting in LinkedIn, and this is just my personal opinion, right, and what I know. So you're posting in LinkedIn because you want to communicate a message to your followers in LinkedIn. In your site, in your post in LinkedIn, should you be referencing you could do a status update and share a blog post into LinkedIn and get people to link back to your site. Or you could write in LinkedIn and talk about a post and say, see what I read here, and then send it back. Is LinkedIn going to pass along from that backlink some kind of authority and rank? Potentially, because LinkedIn is, it depends. LinkedIn is a little more, I'd say, authoritative than Facebook and Twitter. I mean, you can still lie on LinkedIn and say you're Joe Schmo from Poughkeepsie, right, and not yourself, just like you do in most social networks or any social network. So like I said earlier, what I had heard Matt Cutts talk about a couple years ago, and I quoted on, was that social networks are not passing page rank and authority to from backlinks to in social posts yet, until they figure it out. It could potentially do it in the future. So for example, you might post 20 posts in LinkedIn, not status updates, but 20 LinkedIn articles, right? And you could post 20, and you can backlink to a couple of articles on your own site. You're saying, are you going to get that link juice back? I don't know. Probably not, because it's a social network. They'd rather, if, just like Steve mentioned earlier today, if Ford.com posted on their blog, hey, you posted an article here that talks about Ford F-150s, and that's how great of a truck it is, that's going to pass PageRank from blog to blog, not from social network to blog, right? So we can't just assume that we're just going to go in and publish 1,000 posts in LinkedIn and link back to our website products and all that stuff and game the SEO system, because Google's already aware of that and knows that people could do that and fake their profiles and publish 1,000 posts, and that's just like building a link farm, right? So that's probably why it's not happening yet, until they can anticipate and learn and create algorithms to address those issues, right? Does it, having a Facebook page that's your business, and having a Google Plus page that's your business, and having a website that's your business, and having your Facebook page appear in your SERPs, give you some kind of authority and validation? Probably, right? So that's, you want to have a Twitter page, your Facebook page, your Pinterest, your Instagram, but the posts themselves and the link backs may not increase because of the link farm problem, right, that they've already addressed. Any other questions? No? Well, we made it run on time, right? There you go. Bravo, thank you.